Hello everyone and welcome to the Franchising 360 show. I am Tim Parmeter and with me as always is Danielle Wright.
That's me.
And every week here on the show we're going to take a 360 degree look at the franchising industry. Franchising is typically not at all what people think it is, and we're going to educate you on things like, should you own a franchise? If so, how do you know which is the best one for you? Once you're an owner, we're going to talk about strategies to help you grow your business, and we're even going to show you how to take your existing business and turn it into an international franchise brand. Sounds pretty cool, right? Danielle's been doing this for 15 years in the industry. I've been doing this for about 10, and then together here at Fran Coach, we are here. Our team is to help you with all of these things, and again, to properly educate you on franchise ownership and the industry as a whole. And we're going to try to do that tonight on this show.
I love that idea.
It seems like a good idea. Well, now
We've been doing it for quite some time now.
I don't think we've educated anybody on anything yet.
No.
Probably something, right? Maybe.
Maybe us.
No, today in particular, we want to talk about this, like, I'm old, so let's go into the Wayback Machine called like the early 90s and the movie, like, Show Me the Money.
Oh, okay.
Like, well, but instead of show me the money, it is show me the math, because we're going to talk about money today.
Yeah, I love that idea. It kind of piggybacks on what we were talking about last week, right? Like, is now the time, is now not the time, but maybe it is the time, but holy moly, I don't know how to do it.
Right, and there's always, again, let's be honest, it takes money to get into a franchise.
Well, I'm going to debate with you on that. You don't have to have a lot of cash. You have to have borrow ability.
Right, and in some way, shape, or form, you rob a bank for all we care. Well, I mean, not really,
don't do
just
that.
kidding.
Don't do that.
But no, it's not as, like, a lot of times people think franchising is millions and millions of dollars.
Right, or it's for the wealthy.
Right.
Right.
But it's the franchise owners are the ones that become wealthy typically, right? But it is, and not so much the make money today, because before, people always want to go to that. How much money can I make? Hold your horses. We got to figure out how much it takes first.
Right. So we're going to dive into all of that. Like, how much do I need to borrow, maybe? How
do I know how much it's going to take to make to get started? How much it's going to take us to run it? All of those. Where do we find that information?
Yeah. Like, where do I find the money?
Right.
Now that I know how much, how do I find it?
Correct.
Where do I get it?
So all of those fun
and not robbing the bank.
No, probably not. But no, all of those fun things. But speaking of fun,
yeah,
it's Friday night. You know what that means?
No, dinner out.
Oh yeah, sure. Fridays franchise fun fact.
Yeah.
Brought to you by Fran Coach. To just get one more F in there.
Like tongue twisters, for sure.
So what do we got?
So a colleague of ours, super fun, before we started this, like, ooh, let me find you a fun Friday fact. I'm like, okay, great. And so back in 1961, you weren't alive yet, right? Or were you? I mean,
no.
Okay. Darn. 50% ownership of Domino's, which is a pizza franchise, was sold for, guess what?
A car topper.
No, guess again. You're not gonna guess.
Dough.
A Volkswagen Bug.
Oh.
They bought a car with 50% ownership of Domino's. Do you think those people still own it today?
The Bug or the
Both.
50%?
Both.
Then did they use it to deliver the pizzas?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
I have so many questions.
I know.
These facts are bad for us because we're going to start asking a bunch of questions and never get any answers.
No, and I went to Car Topper because my first job was delivering pizzas for Domino's.
Oh, high five.
Yeah. So
fun.
The little
fun fact has turned into a very
fun facts plural, right? So the Domino's, and I'm sure others have them, where like I walk in with my kiddo sometimes, they have pictures of the old uniforms.
Yeah, you're still a person that goes into places like that.
Old time things. Well, I'm cheap. I don't want to pay the delivery fees, so we'll do it that way. But there's literally the uniform that I wore and the really bad tall mesh hat, and we had the car topper. on the car. It was super fun.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But I guess the investment into Domino's back in 1961 is not the investment into Domino's.
No, probably, I don't know that would get you 50% off a pizza, let alone.
A Volkswagen Bug? I mean, do they make them anymore? I know the van just came out, but that's a tangent. Sorry.
And then was there a slug bug in there? So we got to get to the important stuff, which is like the math and the money piece of this.
Math and money.
When we come back, we've talked a little bit in the past about the FDD and the franchise disclosure document.
Yes.
Occasionally there's something useful in there, although I'm the one person I was like, that's not that really important in the grand scheme of things. But there are some nuggets in there that we can pull out.
Says the franchise consultant to the franchisor representative. Correct. There's nothing really in there.
Not that important in figuring out which is the best one, but you do have to understand the financial stuff. So let's walk through where we can find that and start putting together some of the math to figure out what this thing costs.
All right, let's get our calculators.
Let's do that. I got an abacus over here as well for us old folks. So we'll be right back after this on the Franchising 360 show. Hey everyone, we're back on the Franchising 360 show. I'm Tim Parmeter, that's Danielle Wright. You have spent the last 2 minutes Googling what the heck an abacus is. So we're gonna get back to figuring out, it's kind of the show me the money. How much do you need? How do you figure this out? And then kind of how we work through the math. One of the first places I think people can start putting together cost and fees is actually in the FDD, and one of the items, tell us a little bit about what somebody might find like in item 7.
Well, technically you could probably find it on a website.
Well, true.
First and foremost, right? Because you have to work yourself through a space with the franchise to be able to get the FDD.
Right.
It's not readily available to anyone. Sure. Like you have to be disclosed with it. So a lot of franchises will put that information on their website. So if you see it, it's going to look like a beautiful chart, right? I tell everybody, I was like, charts are great. They're great. Numbers, it's visual, it's all condensed. Yeah, it's condensed for a reason, and there are a lot of wide ranges on those charts, and for a lot of reasons.
What are some things that we see when we get to the point of the FDD, and it may be on the website, but that section or kind of item 7 lists cost and fees, and you mentioned some ranges, but what are some of the things that are listed there?
So you'll find the franchise fee. That's your initial buy-in to the franchise.
Right.
You're going to see professional fees, because there are going to be people that, hey, I need a CPA, I need an attorney, not just an attorney for the agreement, a real estate attorney if you have a real estate build out, construction costs, project management costs, marketing expenses. So anything that what we call is the initial investment. This is not your ongoing, this is not anything outside of. This is probably the amount of money that you need to either have in hand or that you're borrowing to kickstart the franchise, get it from I sign an agreement to doors are open to roughly 3 months of doors being open and you're operating your business. So that's why it's called an initial investment.
Yeah.
If you were to do a second location or buy a second truck or whatever industry you're in, that's going to change a little bit because not all the initial expenses are going to be the same. So like when you buy a house, right? It's first time I buy a house, it's a little different. Second time, I'm going to negotiate different things, so I may not necessarily have as much detail.
Yeah, and though there's very good information there, it's also important to know that not everything is going to be listed there. That you or costs that you may incur to get started.
The struggle with that is those numbers come from existing owners.
Correct.
And giving that information. Right. Not every owner keeps
Right.
If you were to look at the two of us and you were to hash this out, you're probably going to have, hey, I bought a pair of socks for this initial investment, and so you're going to roll that into your little breakout chart. Me, I'm like, I bought socks, I was going to buy socks. Do I need to include that in that? So not every franchise. And know that the franchisor is not pulling it's not their numbers.
Franchisor is not making that up. That's being reported by franchise owners.
Some franchise owners.
Not all the franchise owners don't have to report all of that information. So it's good information, but don't take it as the absolute this.
That's why you have a low and a high. The Federal Trade Commission tells franchisors they have to put what is the lowest that someone invested to get something open, what is the most amount of money that someone has spent. And typically you'll get the median, the mean, and in between to try to say, okay, geographically this is different. I'm not going to have 2, I'm going to have 3, I'm going to have 1. Like there are a lot of variables.
And so at Fran Coach, when we're working with people vetting out franchises, anytime somebody looks at that and here's the low and the high, if they start focus on the low, like I'm going to very, very quickly, like let's not plan.
That should be your goal, right?
That's the goal, but let's not assume that's going to be the fact.
So you tell them that when I'm dealing with a client looking at a brand specifically, I say you don't go out and you don't go and borrow $500,000 to build a house and build an $800,000 house, do you? Well, no. So if you borrow 500 or you're going to borrow 5, what are you going to do when you're building that house? Well, I'm going to try to make it less, right? Because you don't really want to borrow 500, so you cost it down throughout the process. So that's why they give you a range. If you want the low to be your goal, I'm all for that. Great.
Absolutely,
but prepare for the high.
Don't have enough money for that low and not a dime more because you're setting yourself up for a disaster.
Because something will happen. Anybody that knows construction, change orders. Change orders are the death to a project, and that is not in an investment chart.
Right, and even when there's not real estate involved, there still can be some ranges. Somebody may purchase a truck versus leasing a truck. We may hire one person instead of 2 people.
You may do W-2 employees versus 1099.
Right? So all of those things. So it's important to know it's the starting point to kind of start piecing this together. There's a couple kind of items in the item, like those line items that I want to dive a little bit deeper into when we
just because we get a lot of people, and it's been a constant conversation we've had as of late with like franchise fees and such.
And I think franchise fee, and the other one is marketing, because sometimes that feels like astronomical. Oh my gosh, right? Is it really that much money?
So let's bring it to a level that we all understand.
So let's be honest, we ain't that bright, so we're gonna make things simple for you so you can understand this more. So when we come back, a little bit more specific on the franchise fee as part of that cost to get open, as well as some of the marketing things. So that and more here on the Franchising 360 show when we return. Hey everyone, we're back here on the Franchising 360 show. We are talking about money, and we're going to kind of show you the math as opposed to the money this time, understanding how to figure out how to find how much money you're going to need to own a franchise and make it successful, where to find that information. And we were talking about item 7 in the FDD.
Right.
Great place to get an initial look at that.
Even though you think it's not, but okay.
It's a good place to get an initial look. It is not the end all be all of that. But one of the things in there is the franchise fees, kind of the first bit of money that is spent. And so Danielle, you've worked on the franchisor side forever. Clearly franchisors are trying to stick it to you with the franchise fee.
Yes, because that's where we start.
Why do I have to pay that money? Tell me about, are you just trying to make money off of me with that as a potential franchise owner? Where's that go?
I wish, and those fees are drastically different. We see a lot of times, I think you guys do as well with your clients, hey, $30,000 to get into the franchise. So it's a misconception, because that's just what is the initial franchise fee. And so I'm big about definition of words. Initial means it's the one time, it's paid at the front, and it doesn't just give you access to the business, right? So the reality is franchise fees, like anything, we talked recession, what have you, economies of scale. As brands get bigger, they do what? They add infrastructure, support people. There's a brand that I've worked with that they're at 74 franchise owners now, and they're now just raising their franchise fee. Granted, it's $10,000, but $10,000 in the grand scheme of things could be used for a lot of reasons.
Yes, I think there's sometimes a perception of the franchisor is taking that $50,000 franchise fee and just sticking it in their pocket, or they're going, hey, woohoo, let's go out for a party.
I wish that was the case,
right? But it's how franchises really make money is the royalties, which they're not going to start making until you're ever open. So talk about some
probably 2 years from the time you open.
Right. So talk about some of the things that, let's just call it $50,000 for now.
Okay.
Franchise fee is $50,000.
So if we had a chart right now, $50,000. Okay, got it.
Because I don't think people ever think about it from the franchisor standpoint.
No.
List off some things that $50,000 is covering, and kind of how much they're basically floating the franchise on.
So if I was line iteming of $50,000, and let's put it into perspective, I've got a business that I'm going to buy into, and it doesn't open for 6 months.
Right.
All right. So I've got a 6-month window where the franchise has to help me create an entity, get the software rolled out that I have to work with. I have to attend training, whether that's a week's worth of training or 2 weeks worth of training. You're getting weekly status calls. You're working with the vendors to get a truck, to find a real estate location. So all of the work that gets you what we call launched, kicked off and launched, has to be supported by someone.
Right.
So,
and really, if you back that up, even before you become a franchise owner, that money is basically that $50,000 is also to help pay whoever you were working with during that process, however they found
piece of
you.
it, right? So, like, if you, Tim, were working for a franchise, you'd probably be making a salary.
Right.
Let's just hypothetically say $75,000.
Right.
But if I take 30 minutes a week out of your schedule, that's going to cost me X amount of dollars an hour. And that's just a 30-minute call every week for the foreseeable future.
And you were, I know, with one of your brands, now this is the brick and mortar one, you were on a call not too long ago with, I think it was 4 employees from the franchise.
Correct.
All talking about, with one candidate.
With one franchise owner.
Talking about, and one of the mini calls with that person trying to find their location.
Yes.
Like, how much money was the franchisor
just
paying those people?
In that 30 minutes.
Right.
And that's just that one. On the other side, they are working through checklists on a software system that isn't even the software system they're using to run the business. This is just your onboarding communication tool. So the franchise uses those dollars for the infrastructure, for the training, for the support, for the initial marketing. A lot of things, like, you need a website. Do you know how much it costs to have a website?
And that, right, not to mention, how do you figure out what's on it and all of the stuff.
Hosting,
but
like,
just
there are so many details that you and I, as a regular person, would not know that go into the expense of it. Hence the reason why even you're going to start paying. You don't pay royalties to a franchise until you flip on the switch and you collect $1.
Correct.
You collect $1, all of a sudden the franchisor is collecting. But if you think about the investment that they've made, they're not getting that money back.
And even that $1.
That return on their investment in you as a franchise owner has not been seen until 2 years after.
That $1 they made 7 cents.
7 cents.
Right.
On average.
Right.
Like,
So,
some are higher, some are less, but yeah.
We need to go to break here for a second, but it's just, I
darn,
think
and I'm having such a good time.
It's a matter of, like, people don't realize that when that franchise fee, how deep in the hole the franchisor is on you, and the risk
and labor and things have gotten
and
so,
trust that they are taking in you as a potential franchise owner, that you're going to follow the plan and do all those things.
And we talked recession, we haven't even talked inflation.
Right. And then real quick before we go to break, when you're thinking about becoming a franchisor, like, and that's a whole nother episode, but you're like, oh, I'll sell some franchises and get some money. Yeah, not so much. We got lots more here on understanding the costs and fees of owning a franchise on the Franchising 360 show right after this. Hey everyone, we're back on the Franchising 360 show talking about wonderful money and how much we need to understand to get started with any particular franchise. We talked about the franchise fee and, like, really how in the hole franchisors are, but it can be kind of a fear-producing thing for people looking at the franchise. Oh, what, I have to pay it, until they really understand it. The other one that will throw people off sometimes, even though it's a really low, minuscule percentage, brand fund. Why am I paying 1%, 2%, whatever into a brand fund? Danielle, what in the heck is that? And how could that possibly help me as a franchise owner?
So as we make this transition in the conversation, we were talking initial investment, right? And there's a marketing fee in there, and that's generally your grand opening advertising, right? So when you're doing your research, you're going to go into, okay, what are my ongoing fees? Once I open this business, I create that revenue, you've got your royalty, and you've got this pesky little brand fund. And it can be called a marketing fee, it can be called a lot of different things, but to your point, it's 1 to 2% off of your sales. Okay, so if the royalty is 7%, I got to add another 2%, that's 9%. So out of that $1, I gotta give you 9 cents.
Are you kidding?
Out of that
I gotta give you 9 cents? Really?
Right.
Jeez.
But in the grand scheme, that brand fund fee, or that 2%, goes to continual operation efficiencies from a marketing perspective. Now, we could have hour-long discussions.
Correct.
No brand is going to tell you where every single dollar goes. They'll tell you where the percentage of that goes. Some of it's administrative costs. But really the thing for people to think about is there's a website that yes, the brand is paid for and supports, but as a brand grows and as franchise owners, I have to have microsites.
Right.
You fire someone, I have to take that person off that site. You change your hours of operation, I have to change that on that site. So there's an administrative cost to managing that. And then the brand itself needs to build brand equity. And so part of your dollars are going to continuing to support the growth of this brand in the market, which will hopefully get you more notoriety in an area and build more revenue and all of those things. But people take that 2% and like, oh my gosh, it's a lot of money.
Right.
But math wizard that you are, if your franchise brought in $500,000 worth of revenue, what's 2% on $500,000?
My abacus is over there in the chair.
Right.
So, but no, it's so minuscule. But I think the other piece of that too, when you think of the brand fund, is during the discovery process when you're looking at a franchise, it's them and it's me as a potential franchise owner. I feel like there's a disconnect. Once people become a franchise owner, the pronoun changes. Right? It's we, it's us, it's my
Well,
brand.
and on my side, I always talk about it being a partnership.
Yeah.
I don't know on
no, absolutely.
Because, you and I are different in some capacities. Like, again, the FDD is not an important document. Lies. So it's kind of just understanding how you would educate a candidate looking at a franchise, and I'm going to be over here telling you, like, this is an important piece, and really in the grand scheme, is $1,000 for the year going to hurt
going
you?
Towards your brand,
and it's if you narrow it down, what I've found recently is that people understand it in very small fashions, because royalties and brand funds are collected either on the weekly or the monthly. Okay, that I could swallow, but like when you look at it on an annual basis, they're like, oh my God, and it's forever, does it decrease? I'm like, it's so insignificant. You should be spending quadruple that in your local market to drive revenue, then it won't really matter to you.
Right, and the one thing, because we're going to run out of time, that we didn't touch on
always
at
running
all.
out of time.
I know. Well, somebody talks a lot, and so we're in franchising. That's what we do. But the marketing and how to budget for that, where all of that goes, that's like literally that's a whole episode.
That's
just,
like 2
just
episodes.
On that.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is when we start forming all of this information, and you'll hear the term pro forma with all of those things, where some franchises will help you a little bit. We do a little bit. In fact, if you want to learn more just about a pro forma, Franchising 101 podcast, literally episode 214 is all about trying to figure that out. But there's so many things that go into the money piece. There's never just one place where it's going to be, oh, it's exactly this amount. It's why this is a long process vetting people out. And why you kind of need experts like, I don't know, Fran Coach.
Oh, okay. One that tells you not to look at an FDD. Okay.
Look at it properly, folks. And so with an expert, that'll help you with that. So, and then real quick, if you're ready to learn more about becoming a franchise owner, becoming a better, more successful franchise owner once you are one, or you've got a business that you want to become a franchise, francoach.net is where you're going to find us and our whole team to be able to help you. If you're an aspiring franchisor, next week we're going to talk about some mistakes and some things to think about at the very beginning.
Oh, you're going to give me the mic again.
I know, right? So, and then don't forget our YouTube channel. There's a little thing here. I'm going to keep moving my finger to see if Jason can keep up with me in there on where that QR code. Find all of our stuff for the episodes, more just stuff galore on YouTube. But until next week, that is Danielle Wright.
That's me.
I'm Tim Parmeter, and we'll see you next Friday, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on BizTV on the Franchising 360 show.